Captain Lee Hyun rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the main screen of the UES Defiance. 3 months into their deep space mission, and still nothing but empty space and distant stars. The bridge hummed quietly around him. His crew worked, at their stations with practiced efficiency. "Any word from Earth Command today?" Hyun asked his communications officer. Park Soo looked up from her console. "The usual reports, sir. Colony shipments are on schedule. The Mars terraforming project hit another milestone. Nothing urgent." Hyun nodded and turned back to the forward view. They were farther from Earth than any human had ever traveled before. The mission was simple: explore, map, and look for signs of life. So far they had found only dead rocks and gas clouds. "Captain," called out navigator Kim Do-young from his station, "we're approaching the coordinates for our next survey point. Should I begin the scanning sequence?" "Go ahead," Hyun replied. He had lost count of how many systems they had scanned. Each one empty, each one silent. Sometimes he wondered if humans were truly alone in the universe. The bridge settled into its routine. Do-young worked his instruments while Science Officer Yoon Min-ho prepared the deep space sensors. Communications Officer Soo monitored the various channels that connected the ship to human civilization light years away. Then every screen on the bridge went white. "What's happening?" Hyun demanded, jumping from his command chair. "Unknown, sir," Soo said, her fingers flying over her controls. "All communications are being overridden. I can't stop it." The white screens flickered once. Then a face appeared. A human face. A woman with dark hair and serious eyes. She looked directly at them, as if she could see through the screen. "Since I finally have your focus," the woman said, her voice clear and calm. Hyun felt his blood turn cold. He knew that face. Every human in space knew that face. "That's Dr. Kim Nari," whispered Science Officer Min-ho. "But that's impossible. She's been missing for 3 years." Nari had been the lead scientist on humanity's first official contact mission. Her ship had vanished without a trace near the edge of explored space. The search teams found nothing, not even debris. The official report listed her and her entire crew as lost to unknown causes. Now she was speaking to them from every screen on their ship. "I know this is shocking," Nari continued. Her image was crystal clear despite the impossible distance her signal must be traveling. "I know many of you thought I was dead. I wish I could tell you that you were wrong. But the truth is more complicated than death or life." On the communications console, warning lights began flashing. Sue stared at her readings with growing alarm. "Captain," she said in a shaky voice, "this signal is not just reaching us, it's being broadcast on every human frequency simultaneously. Every ship, every station, every colony is receiving this." Hyun's mind raced. That was impossible. No human technology could broadcast across such distances to every human settlement at once. The power requirements alone would be beyond anything they possessed. "For 3 years I have been living among beings that most of you cannot imagine," Nari said. "I have learned their languages, studied their cultures, and discovered truths about our place in the universe that will change everything." The screen split. Nari's face remained on one side while the other showed star maps that Hyun had never seen before. Systems marked with symbols he didn't recognize. Trade routes connecting dozens of inhabited worlds. "We are not alone," Nari said simply. "We have never been alone. The galaxy is full of intelligent life, thousands of species, millions of worlds, an entire civilization that has existed for longer than humans have had language." Minho gripped his console. "Captain, those star maps show inhabited systems within 50 light-years of Earth. How is that possible? Our surveys found nothing." "Because they didn't want to be found," Nari answered as if she had heard him. "The Galactic Confederation has been watching us since we first left our home world. Every probe we sent into deep space, every colony ship we launched, every exploration mission like yours, Captain Lee Hyun." Hyun's heart stopped. She had spoken his name. Somehow she knew exactly who was watching. "They have been debating our fate for decades," Nari continued. "Some believe humans should be contacted and welcomed into galactic society. Others think we are too dangerous, too aggressive, too unpredictable. They call us the virus species. The star map zoomed in to show Earth's solar system. Red markers appeared around it, forming a loose sphere. We have been under quarantine, Nari explained, contained within a boundary we didn't even know existed. They have been watching us grow and spread, studying our behavior, trying to decide what to do with us. Sue's console erupted in noise. Emergency signals from across human space flooded the communications array. Colony governors demanding explanations, military commanders shouting orders, civilian frequencies filled with panic and fear. The debate is over, Nari said, her voice cutting through the chaos with frightening clarity. The Confederation Council has reached their decision. In 18 hours, they will act on that decision. The screen changed again. This time it showed massive ships unlike anything in human design. They moved with impossible grace through space, their hulls shimmering with unknown technologies. 47 vessels are moving toward our solar system as I speak, Nari said. Not to invade, not to conquer, to judge. They will arrive exactly 18 hours from now to carry out the Confederation's will. Hyun found his voice. Computer, establish communication with Earth Command immediately. All channels are still blocked, sir, Sue reported. Only this signal is getting through. Nari smiled sadly from the screen. I'm sorry, Captain, but this message must be heard by everyone at once. No government filters, no military censorship. Every human needs to know what's coming. What do they want from us? Hyun asked the screen, not really expecting an answer. Proof, Nari replied, making him jump. Proof that humanity deserves to survive, that we can be more than the sum of our violent history, that we can contribute something valuable to the galaxy instead of just taking from it. The alien ships on the screen moved in perfect formation toward a small yellow star. Earth's sun. I have been preparing for this moment for 3 years, Nari said. I have a plan, but it will require every human, on every world and every ship to work together like we never have before. The instructions will begin transmitting in 1 hour. You will have 17 hours to implement them. She leaned forward, her eyes intense. I know this is terrifying. I know it sounds impossible. But I have seen what's out there in the galaxy. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have seen species that could have been great disappear because they failed their moment of judgment. The screen showed images of dead worlds and empty cities. Humanity stands at that same crossroads now, Nari said. We can prove we belong among the stars, or we can be removed from them forever. The choice is ours, but the time is running out. The signal flickered once. Remember, Nari said as her image began to fade. We are not trying to prove we are peaceful. We are proving we are worth the risk. The screens went dark. Normal communications resumed instantly. The bridge of the Defiance filled with the sound of incoming emergency transmissions from across human space. Hyun stood in the sudden chaos, his mind struggling to process what they had just witnessed. In 18 hours, humanity would face judgment from beings they had never known existed, and their fate rested in the hands of a woman who had been missing for 3 years. Admiral Choi Tae-ho stared at the tactical display in the command center of Luna Station. Red dots marked the positions of every human warship within 2 light years of Earth. It looked impressive until he considered what Nari had described. 47 alien vessels with technology centuries ahead of anything humans possessed. Admiral, called Lieutenant Commander Park Ji-min from the communication station. We're receiving priority signals from every human colony and outpost. They're all asking the same question. What question? Tae-ho asked, though he already knew the answer. What do we do now, sir? Tae-ho had commanded Earth's defense fleet for 8 years. He had prepared for asteroid impacts, solar flares, even theoretical alien invasions. But he had never prepared for this. How do you fight an enemy that has been watching you for decades? How do you defend against technology you don't understand? Get me a direct line to President Chen on Earth, he ordered, and patch in every colony governor and fleet. Commander, we need to coordinate our response. As Ji-min worked to establish the connections, the main screen flickered back to life. Dr. Kim Nari appeared again, but this time she looked different. Tired, older. Her clothes were strange, made from materials that seemed to shift color in the light. I know you have questions, Nari began. I know your military leaders are trying to figure out how to fight. Your politicians are looking for ways to negotiate. Your scientists are analyzing everything I've told you, looking for flaws or lies. She paused and looked directly at the camera. Stop. All of you. This is not a war you can win with weapons. This is not a negotiation you can resolve with treaties. The Confederation has made their decision based on 300 years of observation. They know everything about us. Every strength, every weakness, every pattern of behavior. On Kepler Station, engineer Yoon Jae-sung watched the broadcast with his mining crew gathered around him. They had been working double shifts to extract rare minerals from the asteroid field. Simple, honest work that seemed meaningless now. They call us the virus species, Nari continued. And if you look at our history, you can understand why. We spread from world to world, consuming resources, changing environments to suit our needs. We compete with each other even when cooperation would benefit everyone. We solve problems with violence when other options exist. Jae-sung felt his crew shift uncomfortably around him. Everything Nari said was true. Humans had strip-mined entire asteroids, terraformed worlds without thought for existing life, and fought wars over resources while people starved. But they're wrong about our potential, Nari said, her voice growing stronger. I have spent 3 years living among 12 different species. I have seen civilizations that are older, wiser, and more advanced than ours in every measurable way, and I have seen something they lack. The screen changed to show images of alien cities, beautiful, perfect, and somehow lifeless. Towers that reached into the clouds with no signs of change or growth. Parks filled with the same plants arranged in the same patterns for centuries. They have achieved stability, Nari explained. Perfect order. No waste, no conflict, no chaos, but also no innovation, no creativity, no growth. They maintain what exists but never create anything new. Back on Luna Station, Admiral Taeho found himself leaning forward. This was not what he had expected to hear. The Confederation has been stagnant for 2,000 years, Nari continued. Their technology advances slowly. Their art never changes. Their cultures follow the same patterns their ancestors established millennia ago. They have eliminated the chaos that drives change, but they have also eliminated the possibility of becoming something more. The images shifted to show human settlements, messy, chaotic, constantly changing. New buildings rising next to old ones. Gardens where someone had decided to plant something different. Children playing games that their parents had never seen. We are chaos, Nari said simply. We are the species that cannot be predicted, cannot be controlled, cannot be made to follow the same path twice. The Confederation fears us because we represent everything they gave up to achieve their perfect stability. On the agricultural ship New Eden, Captain Nam Young-soo paused in his daily rounds. His ship was carrying seeds and genetic samples to a new colony world, standard terraforming supplies that would help establish human life in another system. He had never thought of it as anything special before. But I have learned something in my time among them, Nari continued. Fear can become respect. Chaos can become creativity. The virus that destroys can also be the force that brings new life. The screen split again. On one side, Nari's face. On the other, a complex diagram that looked like a three-dimensional puzzle made of light. I have been building something for 3 years, she said. Not a weapon, not a shield. Something that will show them what humanity really is when we work together toward a common goal. Admiral Taeho studied the diagram. It looked like some kind of communication array, but larger and more complex than anything he had seen. Components were scattered across multiple star systems. Every human settlement has been built with certain specifications, Nari explained. Communication arrays positioned at specific coordinates, power generators with particular output frequencies, industrial facilities designed to work in harmony with each other. Engineer Jae-sung looked around his mining station with new eyes. The massive communication dish they used to stay in contact with Earth. The fusion reactor that powered their operations. the metal refining equipment that processed ore into specific alloys. All of it built according to strict guidelines from Earth Command. "You thought you were building colonies," Nari said, a slight smile crossing her face. "You were actually building components of the largest construction project in human history." The diagram rotated, showing how the scattered pieces could connect across light years of space. Communication beams linking every human outpost. Power grids synchronizing across multiple worlds. Industrial output coordinated to create something vast and unprecedented. "In 16 hours, the Confederation fleet will arrive to pass judgment on humanity," Nari continued. "They expect to find a typical virus species, violent, chaotic, destructive. They plan to end our expansion before we can spread further into the galaxy." She leaned forward, her eyes bright with determination. "Instead, they will discover something they have never seen before. A species that can build something beautiful from chaos. A civilization that can create rather than just consume. A people who deserve to join the galactic community not despite our nature, but because of it." The transmission began to include detailed technical specifications, instructions for coordinating power output, aligning communication arrays, and synchronizing industrial production across human space. "I need every human to follow these instructions exactly," Nari said. "Every ship, every station, every colony must work together. The timing must be perfect. The coordination must be absolute." Captain Nam Young-soo read through the instructions. On his screen, his agricultural ship was supposed to position itself at specific coordinates and broadcast on a particular frequency. Simple enough, but the timing window was incredibly narrow. "This is our one chance to show them what we can become," Nari said. "Not just another species that consumes and expands, but the catalyst that can help the galaxy grow again after 2,000 years of stagnation." The technical specifications continued streaming across every human communication network, detailed down to the second, requiring precise coordination across light years of space. "I know this seems impossible," Nari said as her image began to fade again. "I know some of you doubt whether we can pull this off, but I have seen what humans can accomplish when we work together. I have seen us turn dead worlds into gardens. I have seen us solve problems that other species considered impossible." The screen flickered one final time. "We have 16 hours to prove that chaos can create something more beautiful than order ever could. 16 hours to show them that the virus species is actually the cure for a galaxy that has forgotten how to change." The transmission ended, leaving every human settlement with the same question. Could they really coordinate something this complex across all of human space in less than 16 hours? Admiral Tejo looked at his tactical display again. The red dots representing human ships and stations suddenly looked different. Not scattered fragments of a vulnerable civilization, but components of something larger than any single world or fleet. For the first time since Nari's broadcast began, he felt something other than fear. He felt hope. Dr. Song Mi-young had not slept in 14 hours. The Xenology Department at Seoul University had become the unofficial coordination center for Nari's impossible plan. Her office was filled with holographic displays showing the status of human settlements across the galaxy. "Colony 7 reports their power grid is synchronized," called out her assistant Lee Hoon, "but they're having trouble with the communication array alignment." Mi-young rubbed her eyes and studied the data streaming in from across human space. Every settlement, every ship, every station was trying to follow Nari's precise instructions. Most were succeeding, some were struggling, a few were failing entirely. "Get me Director Han on Mars," she ordered. "If Mars can't get their industrial output right, the whole pattern collapses." On Mars, Colony Director Han Woo-jin stood in the main control room surrounded by engineers and technicians. Red warning lights flashed across multiple control panels. The massive industrial complex that processed Martian ore was not responding to the new coordination protocols. "The fusion reactors are overloading," reported Chief Engineer Kang So-young. "If we push them to the required output levels, we risk a complete shutdown." Hans stared at the technical specifications Nari had provided. The power requirements were enormous. Mars was supposed to contribute 15% of the total energy output for whatever they were building. What if we cycle the reactors? He asked. Rotate which ones are running at maximum output. That could work, So Young said, her fingers flying over the controls. But the timing has to be perfect. Any disruption in the power flow and we'll fall out of sync with the other colonies. Han watched the power levels fluctuate on his screens. They were asking every human settlement to perform at the absolute limits of their capabilities. One mistake, anywhere, could doom the entire effort. His communication console chimed. Dr. Song Mi-young appeared on the screen, looking exhausted but determined. Director Han, how are you managing the power coordination? We're holding steady for now, Han replied. But I have to ask, Dr. Song, do we really know what we're building? Nari's specifications are incredibly complex, but she hasn't told us what the final result will be. Mi-young was quiet for a moment. I've been analyzing the patterns, she said finally. Based on the energy signatures and communication frequencies, I think we're building some kind of transmitter. Something that can broadcast across the entire galaxy. Broadcasting what? I don't know, Mi-young admitted. But whatever it is, Nari believes it will save us. In the asteroid belt, Captain Bei Su-jin commanded the cargo hauler Far Horizon. Her ship was one of dozens positioned at specific coordinates throughout the solar system. Each ship carried refined metal components that had been shaped according to Nari's exact specifications. Captain, called her navigator, Park Min-woo. We're in position. All cargo pods are ready for deployment. Su-jin looked out at the empty space around them. Her ship carried what looked like enormous metal sculptures, strange shapes that meant nothing to her but were apparently crucial to Nari's plan. Deploy Cargo Pod 1, she ordered. The first metal structure drifted away from her ship, powered by small maneuvering thrusters. It would take its position exactly 3,000 kilometers from Far Horizon and wait for the signal to activate. Pod 1 in position and ready, Min-woo reported. Su-jin watched the structure rotate slowly in space. It was beautiful in its own way, even though she didn't understand its purpose, like a metal flower designed by someone who understood mathematics better than art. Deploy Pod 2. Similar scenes played out across human space, ships releasing carefully crafted components into the void. Stations aligning their communication arrays to precise coordinates, colonies synchronizing their power outputs to match a pattern that spanned light years. On Europa Research Station, scientist Kang Ji-hoon monitored the deep space sensors that watched for the approaching alien fleet. The massive ships were still hours away, but their energy signatures were already visible to Earth's most sensitive instruments. Dr. Song, Ji-hoon transmitted to the coordination center on Earth. The alien fleet is maintaining course and speed. They'll arrive exactly when Nari predicted. How many ships? Mi-young asked. 47, just as she said. They're traveling in a perfect formation. No deviation, no course corrections. It's like they're following a predetermined path. Ji-hoon studied the sensor readings more closely. The alien ships were massive, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. But they were not moving like a military fleet preparing for battle. They moved with the precision of judges arriving at a courtroom. There's something else, Ji-hoon added. They're not alone. What do you mean? There are other ships joining them, different designs, different energy signatures. I count at least 12 distinct alien species represented in that fleet. Mi-young felt her stomach drop. Not just one alien civilization, but multiple species coming to judge humanity. The stakes were even higher than they had thought. Keep monitoring, she told Ji-hoon. We need to know everything about that fleet before they arrive. Back on the UES Defiance, Captain Lee Hyun coordinated with the other exploration ships scattered throughout human space. His ship was the farthest, from Earth, but it still had a role to play in Nari's plan. All exploration vessels, this is Defiance Actual, Hyun transmitted. Begin Phase 3 of the coordination sequence. His ship and 6 others activated their most powerful sensors simultaneously. They began scanning empty space in a pattern that would map the exact positions of every major gravitational body, Within 50 light-years of Earth. Why are we mapping gravity wells? Asked his navigator Kim Do-young. I think we're creating a targeting system, Hyun replied, studying the data as it came in. Whatever we're about to broadcast, it needs to reach specific locations across the galaxy with perfect accuracy. The hours ticked by. Human settlements across space worked together with a coordination they had never achieved before. No single government was in charge. No military command structure controlled the operation, yet somehow people who had never met were working in perfect harmony toward a common goal. Dr. Song Mi-young watched the status displays in her office as humanity's scattered civilization became something more. Power grids that had never been connected were synchronizing across light years. Communication arrays were aligning to create transmission paths that spanned the galaxy. Industrial facilities were producing components for a structure larger than any single world could build. Dr. Song, Lee Hoon called from his station. We're at 92% coordination. All major settlements are online and synchronized. Mi-young felt a mixture of pride and terror. They were actually doing it. Humanity was pulling together to build something that should have been impossible, but they still didn't know if it would be enough. What's our time remaining? She asked. 4 hours and 17 minutes until the alien fleet arrives. Mi-young nodded and turned back to her displays. In 4 hours, they would learn if 3 years of preparation and the desperate cooperation of every human in space would be enough to save their species. Outside her window, the lights of Seoul glowed in the darkness. Somewhere up there, alien judges were coming to decide humanity's fate. And somewhere in space, a woman who had been missing for 3 years was about to reveal what she had been building all this time. The preparation was nearly complete. Soon, it would be time to show the galaxy what humans could accomplish when they worked together. Mi-young just hoped it would be enough. The alien fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 47 massive ships appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system, their hulls shimmering with technologies that defied human understanding. They moved with perfect precision, taking positions around the sun like judges surrounding a courtroom. Admiral Choi Tai-ho watched from Luna Station as the impossible vessels settled into their formation. Each ship was larger than Earth's biggest space station. Their energy readings were off the scale. If these beings wanted to destroy humanity, they could do it without effort. Admiral, reported Lieutenant Commander Park Ji-min. All human vessels are reporting the same thing. Complete power failure. Every ship, every station, every colony has gone dark. Tai-ho felt his heart stop. The bridge lights flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red light. Around him, his crew worked frantically at control panels that no longer responded. It's not an attack, he realized aloud. It's a test. On Mars, Colony Director Han Woo-jin stood in darkness as the massive industrial complex fell silent. The fusion reactors that had powered the colony for decades simply stopped working. Life support systems switched to backup power that would last maybe 6 hours. Director, called Chief Engineer Kang So-young from across the darkened control room. The power failure is selective. They've disabled our main systems but left basic life support functioning. Han understood. The aliens could have killed every human in space instantly. Instead, they had simply made them helpless. This was not about destruction. It was about judgment. Sir, So-young continued, her voice filled with wonder. Something is happening to the metal structures we deployed. Han looked out the observation windows and gasped. The carefully positioned metal components that Nari had asked them to place were beginning to glow. Not with electric power, but with something else, something that came from the structures themselves. Engineer Yoon Jae-sung watched from his disabled mining station as the same phenomenon occurred throughout the asteroid belt. Every metal component that had been deployed according to Nari's specifications was beginning to resonate. The structures that had looked like meaningless sculptures were revealing their true purpose. By all the stars, whispered his colleague, technician Lim Hae-won. They're singing. She was right. The metal structures were producing sound, but not through speakers or mechanical vibration. The metal itself was resonating at frequencies that created harmonies across space. Dozens of structures in their local area were contributing to a melody, that was both alien and hauntingly beautiful. On the research station Titan Base, engineer Oh Kyung-ho monitored instruments that still worked despite the power failure. His sensors detected something remarkable happening across human space. "The resonance frequency is spreading," he reported to his darkened crew. "Every metal component humanity has built in space is beginning to vibrate in harmony." The pattern Nari had spent 3 years designing was revealing itself. Every human ship, every station, every structure they had built contained metals refined to specific compositions. When exposed to the energy field created by the alien fleet, those metals began to resonate together. What had looked like random human expansion across space was actually a carefully orchestrated construction project. Humanity had unknowingly built the largest musical instrument in the galaxy, but the resonance was more than just sound. As the metal structures sang together, they began to broadcast something into space, not words or images, but pure information, encoded in frequencies that could travel faster than light. Dr. Song Mi-young watched from her darkened office in Seoul as data flooded in from across human space. The emergency communication networks were still functioning, powered by the resonance itself. What she saw on her screens defied belief. "It's a transmission," she whispered to her assistant Lee Hoon. "But not like any transmission we've ever created." The resonating metals were broadcasting the complete genetic, cultural, and technological record of every species humanity had encountered on Earth. Millions of years of evolution compressed into mathematical patterns and sent across the galaxy at impossible speeds. "Look at this," Hoon said, pointing to his screen. "It's not just Earth species. The transmission includes data about every world we've terraformed, every ecosystem we've created, every species we've preserved and transported to new worlds." Mi-young studied the data streams flowing past her window. The alien judges were receiving something they had never seen before, not the conquest records of a virus species, but the preservation archives of a civilization that collected and protected life wherever it went. On the cargo ship Far Horizon, Captain Bae Soo-jin watched the metal components her ship had deployed transform into something beautiful and impossible. The structures were connecting across vast distances, creating geometric patterns that spanned the entire solar system. "Captain," called Navigator Park Min-woo, "I'm detecting similar patterns forming around every human colony. We're not just broadcasting data. We're showing them something." Soo-jin looked at the readings on her emergency displays. The resonance patterns were creating three-dimensional models in space, holographic representations of the worlds humanity had touched, not before and after images of conquest and destruction, but time-lapse recordings of dead worlds coming to life. The alien judges found themselves witnessing something unprecedented. Every barren world humans had settled was shown transforming from lifeless rock into thriving ecosystems. But these were not Earth-like environments forced onto alien worlds. They were entirely new forms of life, created by combining Earth species with local conditions to produce something that had never existed before. Mars appeared in the holographic display, showing its transformation from a dead planet to a world where Earth plants grew alongside synthetic organisms designed specifically for Martian conditions. The result was not a copy of Earth, but something uniquely beautiful. Similar recordings played for dozens of worlds. Dead moons where humans had created underground forests. Asteroid stations where they had built rotating gardens that sustained. Both Earth animals and new hybrid species adapted to zero gravity. Colony worlds where imported Earth species had evolved into new forms of life that could not survive anywhere else. Scientist Kang Ji-hoon monitored the alien fleet's response from Europa Station. The massive ships maintained their formation, but their energy signatures had changed. They were no longer broadcasting the focused power that had disabled human systems. Instead, they were simply observing. "They're studying the transmission," Ji-hoon reported to Dr. Song on Earth. "All 47 ships are recording everything we're broadcasting." "What about the other alien species?" Mi-young asked. "Are they still with the fleet?" "Yes, but their positions have changed. They've moved closer to the main formation. It's like they want to get a better view of what we're showing them. The holographic displays continued for hours. Every human settlement contributed its own story to the vast narrative playing out in space. Not stories of conquest and consumption, but records of creation and preservation. The mining stations showed how humans had learned to extract resources without destroying the worlds they came from. The agricultural ships demonstrated techniques for growing food in impossible environments while creating new ecosystems in the process. The research stations revealed breakthrough discoveries that could restore damaged worlds and bring life to places where it had never existed. But the most powerful images came from Earth itself. The homeworld appeared in the display as it truly was a planet where humans had learned to live alongside millions of other species, not as rulers or conquerors, but as gardeners on a global scale. The transmission showed Earth cities where vertical farms fed billions while providing habitat for countless other species. It showed the restored oceans, where human intervention had brought back species from the edge of extinction and helped them thrive in ways that exceeded their original populations. It showed the space elevators and orbital platforms where humans had learned to live and work without touching the planet's surface, leaving vast areas of Earth wild and free for the other species that called it home. Admiral Tai Ho watched the holographic displays from his darkened command center and finally understood what Nari had been building. Not a weapon or a shield, but a mirror, a way to show the galaxy what humanity really was when seen from the right perspective. "They're not going to destroy us," he said quietly. "How can you be sure, Admiral?" asked Jimin. Tai Ho pointed at the readings that showed the alien fleet's energy signatures. They had powered down their weapon systems. The formation that had looked like a military assault was revealing itself to be something else entirely. "Because they're not judges anymore," he said. "They're an audience, and they're impressed." The resonance continued for 12 hours. Every piece of metal humanity had ever refined sang together in perfect harmony, broadcasting the story of a species that had learned to create life instead of destroying it. When it finally ended, the silence that followed was not empty. It was the silence of a galaxy that had just discovered something it had never imagined possible. The trial was over. Now came the verdict. The silence stretched across space for what felt like hours. Every human settlement waited in darkness, their power systems still disabled by alien technology. The massive fleet of 47 ships maintained their positions around Earth's solar system, but their intent was no longer clear. Captain Nam Young-soo floated in the zero gravity of his agricultural ship New Eden, watching the stars through the observation deck windows. His ship had been one of dozens involved in humanity's greatest project, seeding lifeless worlds with Earth ecosystems. "Captain," called his botanist, Dr. Yoon Soo-jin, from across the darkened cargo bay. "The seed storage units are activating on their own." Nam pushed himself over to where Soo-jin worked by emergency lighting. The massive storage containers that held genetic samples from Earth were glowing with the same soft light they had seen from the metal structures. "It's not our power systems," Soo-jin explained, running her hands over the warm containers. "The resonance from Nari's transmission is activating something in the genetic material itself." Nam watched in amazement as holographic displays appeared above each storage unit. Not technical readouts, but living images of the worlds where these seeds had been planted. Dead rocks transformed into gardens, barren moons covered in forests, asteroid habitats where Earth plants grew alongside species that had never existed before. "They're not just seeing our records," Nam realized. "They're seeing our potential." Similar demonstrations were occurring throughout human space. Every ship, every station, every colony that had been involved in humanity's expansion was revealing its true purpose. On the mining station Kepler 442b, engineer Yoon Jae-sung watched as his extraction equipment began displaying holographic projections. But these were not images of stripped asteroids or empty mining shafts. They showed restoration projects. "Look at this," called his colleague, technician Park Jin-woo. "It's showing what we did on Vesta." The hologram displayed the massive asteroid Vesta, which had been mined extensively in the early days of human expansion. But the image showed more than just resource extraction. It showed how the mining tunnels had been converted into hydroponic gardens. how the excavated chambers had been turned into habitats for species that thrived in low gravity, how the entire asteroid had been transformed into a thriving ecosystem that could not exist anywhere else. We didn't just take from these worlds, Jae-sung said quietly. We gave them life they never could have had. The demonstration spread across every human settlement. Agricultural ships revealed their role in creating new ecosystems on dozens of worlds. Research stations showed breakthrough discoveries in terraforming technology that could restore damaged planets. Industrial facilities displayed their contributions to projects that brought life to the most unlikely places in the galaxy. But the most powerful demonstration came from Earth itself. Dr. Song Mi-young watched from her darkened office as the holographic displays showed Earth's transformation over the past 3 centuries. Not the destruction that alien observers might have expected, but something far more remarkable. The images showed how humanity had learned to live with their home planet rather than simply on it. Cities that rose into the sky without touching the ground, leaving vast wilderness areas untouched. Oceans that were cleaner and more diverse than they had been for thousands of years. Atmospheric processors that had reversed centuries of damage and made the air cleaner than it had ever been. There, seeing us as we really are, Mi-young whispered to her assistant Lee-hoon, not as conquerors but as gardeners. The demonstration revealed humanity's greatest secret. Every expansion into space had been guided not by the desire to consume, but by the need to preserve. Overpopulation on Earth had been solved not by exploiting other worlds, but by learning to create new forms of life that could thrive in environments where nothing had lived before. Each colony world was shown not as a copy of Earth, but as a unique ecosystem that combined Earth species with local conditions to create something entirely new. Mars with its underground forests and crystal gardens. Europa with its ice cities where Earth fish swam alongside creatures designed for the frozen moon's unique environment. Titan with its methane-breathing plants that created oxygen for human habitats while transforming the moon's atmosphere. On the research vessel Discovery, scientist Kang Ji-hoon monitored the alien fleet's response to the demonstration. The massive ships had moved closer to Earth's solar system. Their sensors focused not on military targets, but on the life signs coming from every human settlement. Dr. Song, Ji-hoon transmitted to Earth. The alien fleet is scanning our biosphere. Data. All 47 ships are focused on the same thing. What are they looking at? Mi-young asked. Diversity measurements. They're cataloging every species we've preserved, every ecosystem we've created, every form of life we've helped to develop. Ji-hoon studied his readings more carefully. The alien ships were not just observing, they were comparing, running calculations that seemed to measure something he didn't understand. There's something else, he continued. The other alien species in the fleet are transmitting their own data. It looks like they're sharing information about their own worlds. The demonstration began to reveal its true scope. As the alien species shared their own biological data, patterns emerged that no single civilization had seen before. The galaxy was full of life, but most of it followed predictable patterns. Species evolved, reached stability, and then remained unchanged for millions of years. Humanity was different. Every world they touched became more diverse, not less. Every ecosystem they created was more complex than what had existed before. They didn't just preserve life, they helped it grow into new forms. Captain Lee-hyun watched from the bridge of the UES Defiance as the demonstration reached its climax. The holographic displays showed a timeline of human expansion across space, but from a perspective no human had ever seen before. From above, the pattern was clear. Humanity spread through space like seeds on the wind, but everywhere they landed, life bloomed in ways it never had before. Dead systems became gardens. Barren worlds became complex ecosystems. Empty space became filled with new forms of life that bridged the gap between different types of worlds. We're not a virus species, Navigator Kim Do-young said in wonder. We're pollination agents. Hyun nodded, finally understanding what Nari had seen during her 3 years among the aliens. The galaxy was filled with intelligent life, but most of it existed in isolation. Each species developed on their own world and stayed there, maintaining stability but never growing. Humanity was the first species that actively carried life from world to world, creating new combinations and possibilities that had never existed before. They were the force that could break the galaxy out of its 2,000-year stagnation. The demonstration concluded with images of projects that were still in development, plans to restore dead worlds that had been lifeless for millions of years, techniques for creating sustainable ecosystems in the most hostile environments, methods for helping existing alien species adapt to new worlds and expand beyond their home systems. Admiral Choi Tai-ho watched the final images from Luna Station and felt something he had never experienced before: pride in what humanity had accomplished not through conquest, but through creation. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Commander Park Ji-min, "the alien fleet is moving." Tai-ho tensed, but the movement was not what he expected. The 47 massive ships were not positioning themselves for attack. They were moving into a new formation around Earth's solar system, a formation that looked less like judges and more like guardians. "They're protecting us," Ji-min said in amazement. Before Tai-ho could respond, every human communication system came back online at once. Power flowed back into ships and stations across human space. But this was not their own power returning. It was something new, something that felt different. "Admiral," Ji-min called out, her voice filled with wonder. "We're receiving a transmission. It's from the alien fleet." "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing not one alien face but dozens. Representatives from different species, their appearances ranging from familiar to impossible. But they all shared the same expression: respect. "Humans of Earth," spoke a being that looked like crystalline starlight given form. "We are the Confederation Council. We came here to judge whether your species deserved to survive its expansion into our galaxy." Tai-ho held his breath. Instead, the being continued, "We have discovered something we have not seen in 2,000 years. A species that creates, rather than consumes. A civilization that brings life to dead worlds rather than death to living ones." The screen shifted to show images of the demonstration humanity had just performed. "You are not the virus species we feared," another alien said, this one resembling flowing liquid metal. "You are the catalyst our galaxy needs to grow again." A third alien, appearing as shifting patterns of light, stepped forward. "The Confederation Council extends to humanity our first invitation to join galactic civilization in over a millennium." Tai-ho felt tears in his eyes. They had not just survived the trial, they had passed it in ways they had never imagined possible. "Welcome to the galaxy," all the aliens said in unison. "We have much to learn from each other." The demonstration was over. 3 days had passed since the Confederation Council's announcement, and human space was still trying to understand what had happened. Every ship, every station, every colony was buzzing with activity as people struggled to process the reality of galactic civilization. Fleet Admiral Jung Sang-wook stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, watching as alien vessels approached Earth's solar system. Not the massive judging fleet, but smaller ships carrying what could only be described as delegates. "Admiral," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Park So-young, "we're receiving approach vectors from 17 different alien vessels. They're requesting permission to establish diplomatic contact." Jung had commanded Earth's fleet for 12 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. First contact had become first contacts, plural, as multiple alien species sought to establish relationships with humanity. "Grant them safe passage," Jung ordered, "and get me Ambassador Seo on Luna Station." Ambassador Seo Hyojin had been Earth's senior diplomat for over a decade, but her experience negotiating trade agreements between human colonies seemed laughably inadequate now. Her office on Luna Station had been transformed into humanity's first interstellar embassy, with communication equipment jury-rigged to handle alien technologies. "Ambassador?" her aide Kim Tae-jun called from across the bustling room. "The hegemony. Representative is requesting a private audience to discuss resource-sharing agreements. The Spiral Coalition wants to establish joint research programs." and something called the Garden Worlds Alliance is offering to share terraforming technologies. SEO felt overwhelmed by the sudden flood of opportunities. 3 days ago, humanity had been isolated and under threat of extinction. Now they were being courted by civilizations that had existed for thousands of years. Schedule meetings with all of them, she decided, but make it clear that any agreements must benefit both sides equally. We're not looking for charity or dominance. Her communication console chimed with an incoming transmission marked as maximum priority. Dr. Kim Nari appeared on the screen, but she looked different again. Healthier, more confident. Behind her, Seo could see what appeared to be an alien medical facility. Ambassador Seo, Nari said with a smile, I'm calling from the Confederation Medical Research Station above Earth. They're offering to share healing technologies that could eliminate most human diseases within a generation. SEO leaned forward. What do they want in return? Our help, Nari replied simply. The galaxy has been stagnant for 2,000 years because every species achieved stability and stopped growing. They want us to teach them how to create new life, how to adapt to changing conditions, how to turn dead worlds into living ones. The screen split to show images of alien worlds, beautiful but static cities that had looked the same for centuries, perfect but lifeless gardens where nothing ever changed, civilizations that had achieved everything they thought they wanted, and then stopped dreaming of something more. They're offering us full membership in the Confederation, Nari continued, not as junior partners or probationary members, as equals. They want to learn from us as much as they want to teach us. On the mining station Kepler 442b, engineer Yoon Jae-sung received his first alien visitor. The being was roughly humanoid, but seemed to be made of crystalline formations that shifted color as it moved. It spoke through a translation device that rendered its thoughts into perfect Korean. I am mining specialist Veltar of the Hegemony Worlds, the alien said. I have studied your extraction techniques and find them fascinating. You take resources from asteroids but leave behind habitats for other life forms. We have never considered such methods. Jae-sung showed his visitor around the mining operation, explaining how the tunnels were designed to become gardens once the valuable minerals were extracted, how the waste heat from the processing equipment was used to create perfect growing conditions for plants that thrived in low gravity. On our worlds, Veltar said, mining means destruction. We take what we need and leave dead rock behind. But you create life where none existed before. This is remarkable. It's just practical, Jae-sung replied. Why leave waste when you can make something useful? Veltar's crystalline form flickered with patterns that the translator interpreted as amazement. Practical. Yes. We have forgotten the value of such thinking. Similar exchanges were happening across human space. Agricultural ships were visited by aliens who had never seen plants adapted to zero gravity. Research stations received delegations interested in human techniques for creating new species. Industrial facilities demonstrated methods for building structures that enhanced rather than disrupted local ecosystems. On the research vessel Discovery, scientist Kang Ji-hoon worked alongside a team of alien researchers to analyze the biological data that had been shared during humanity's demonstration. The aliens were particularly interested in something they called adaptive evolution guidance. You help species change, explained Dr. Kriven, whose flowing liquid metal form allowed her to interface directly with computer systems. Most civilizations preserve life by keeping it static. You preserve life by helping it grow into new forms. Ji-hoon studied the data they had collected from dozens of human colonies. We learned early that trying to make alien worlds exactly like Earth didn't work. It was easier to help Earth species adapt to new conditions and create something that worked better for everyone. This is the breakthrough the galaxy has been waiting for, Dr. Kriven said, her liquid form rippling with excitement. Life that can adapt to any condition. Ecosystems that become more stable by changing rather than staying the same. The research revealed something remarkable. Every human colony had developed unique solutions to the challenges of their environment. Mars had underground forests that processed the planet's thin atmosphere. Europa had ice cities where genetically modified fish helped maintain the habitat's water systems. Titan had methane processing plants that created oxygen while transforming the moon's poisonous atmosphere. Captain Nam Young-soo found his agricultural ship New Eden at the center of intense alien interest. Representatives from 12 different species wanted to understand how humans had learned to create food systems that worked in any environment. "We call it the Garden Ship Protocol," Nam explained to a delegation of plant-like aliens whose names were expressed in chemical signatures. His translator couldn't properly render. "Every colony ship carries genetic samples from Earth, but we don't just plant them as they are. We modify them to work with local conditions." He led the aliens through his ship's massive hydroponic sections, showing how Earth vegetables had been adapted to grow in artificial gravity, how fruit trees had been modified to thrive in recycled air systems, how grain crops had been engineered to process nutrients from sources that would be toxic to their Earth ancestors. But the remarkable thing, one of the plant aliens said through chemical signals that appeared as text on Nam's translator, is that these adapted species often grow better than the originals. "You have created improvement through change rather than degradation." Nam had never thought of it that way, but the alien was right. The modified crops on his ship produced more food with less resources than their Earth ancestors. The adapted animals in the ship's biological sections were healthier and longer lived than the original species. Humanity hadn't just preserved Earth's life, they had helped it evolve into something better. Dr. Song Mi-young coordinated the flood of information coming in from first contact encounters across human space. Her xenology department had become the central clearinghouse for humanity's introduction to galactic civilization. "The preliminary reports are incredible," she told her staff during their daily briefing. 17 different species want to establish permanent research partnerships. The Confederation is offering to share technologies that are thousands of years ahead of ours, and they want us to help them restore dead worlds throughout the galaxy. Her assistant Lee Hoon pulled up a holographic display showing the galaxy with human colonies marked in blue and potential partnership worlds marked in green. There were hundreds of green markers. "They're offering us worlds," Hoon said in amazement. "Dead planets that have been lifeless for millions of years. They want us to bring them back to life." Mi-young studied the display with a mixture of excitement and responsibility. Humanity was being offered the chance to become gardeners of the entire galaxy, to take their gift for creating life and apply it on a scale beyond imagination. "There's something else," Hoon continued. "The Confederation wants to establish a joint academy for life sciences. Half human instructors, half alien. They want to learn our methods while teaching us their advanced technologies." The communication console chimed with another priority transmission. This time it was Admiral Young from the flagship Indomitable. Dr. Song Young said, "I'm forwarding you the latest diplomatic summary. Ambassador Seo has negotiated the terms of humanity's entry into the Confederation. We're not just being accepted as members. We're being invited to lead the Galactic Life Sciences Initiative." Mi-young felt her breath catch. Leading a galactic scientific program was beyond anything humanity had imagined possible just a week ago. Captain Lee Hyun received word that his deep space exploration ship would be the first to carry a mixed human-alien